It's time to get your news on. We are VK1WIA.
Yes, as an unwise man once said, it's time. With national news for week commencing November 5, 2023, in our 28th year of non-stop news, Australia's longest running, I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB. Now, because so much is happening socially this month, we're going to start with the social scene, so you don't miss a thing. And we'll start with a reminder. Alara Meet 2023 is on now, November 4 and 5 in Hobart. Then we're off to Rosebud and Andrew, VK3CAH, the Goldie and Paul, VK4PY, Seaford in VK5, Nathan, VK5DAD, and VK7 Double Scotch in Lonnie, VK7 Whiskey. But now to the Southern Peninsula Amateur Radio Club.
This is Andrew, VK3CAH from the Southern Peninsula Amateur Radio Club, with a reminder that the Rosebud Radio Fest will be held this year on Sunday, the 12th of November. In addition to sales of new and pre-loved equipment in the main hall, the Rosebud Radio Fest sets itself apart with the excellent range of forums which are presented. This year, topics being covered are multi-operator remote amateur radio stations by Steve Kennedy, a VK6SJ, M17 open source digital platforms by Tony Langdon, VK3JED, Operation Radar, rapid deployment of amateur radio, supporting communities in times of crisis by Neil Patton, the VK3ZVX. So come along and enjoy the equipment sales, great catering and excellent forums in the Rosebud Radio Fest. See you in Rosebud. This is Andrew, VK3CAH.
Hi, I'm Paul, VK4PY, and if you're on the Gold Coast next weekend, why not pop into the Gold Coast Amateur Radio Society Hamfest on Sunday, the 12th of November. The event will be held at the Country Paradise Parklands at 231 Beaudesert Nerang Road, Nerang. Entry ticket prices are still the same, with $5 per person, with the doors opening to the public from 8:30am. Some of the tables that have been purchased for the event are supplies to the industry, along with other fellow amateurs and other clubs. Once again, we're having the very popular bacon and egg muffins, as well as other items for the barbecue. To book a table or other info, go to allthews.gcars.com.au and look for the Hamfest tab, or email hamfest@gcars.com.au. See you hopefully at the Hamfest on the 12th of November. I'm Paul, VK4PY, and you're tuned to VK1WIA and the National News Service.
Hi, this is Nathan, VK5DAD from the South Coast Amateur Radio Club. Just a reminder, on Thursday the 23rd of November at 7pm, we have our annual general meeting at Railway Parade, Seaford Meadows Scout Hall. All is welcome. This has been Nathan, VK5DAD, on behalf of the South Coast Amateur Radio Club.
Hi, this is Nick, VK7 Whiskey. Has your Lancaster bomber lost its 1155 transmitter? Has the Royal Flying Doctor Service missed a 1 kilowatt Codan linear? Is the New Zealand Army looking for another ZC-1, or perhaps you're looking for something more modern? Well, we know where to find them. At the massive radio auction to be held on Saturday the 25th of November 2023 at the Northern Tasmania Amateur Radio Club club rooms in Rochalee, Launceston. For a preview list of some of the items, please email secretary@entarc.net. That's November Tango Alpha Romeo Charlie.net. Oh, and the date again, Saturday the 25th of November 2023. See you there, 73s from VK7 Double Scotch.
Connecting Australian radio amateurs. The Wireless Institute of Australia and the weekly news service continues. We are VK1WIA.
G'day, this is Chris Dimitrievich, VK3FY, on behalf of the board of the Wireless Institute of Australia for this week's VK1WIA news. The topics for this week's broadcast are as follows. 1. AGM 2024 in Bundaberg, Queensland. 2. Alara Meet 2023 Tasmania. 3. Approval to use VK5WIA for callbacks in South Australia. Topic 1. A reminder that the annual general meeting of the Wireless Institute of Australia will be held on the weekend of 4th to 5th of May 2024 and will be hosted by the Bundaberg Amateur Radio Club in Bundaberg, Queensland. Set aside that weekend to attend the AGM and catch up with some mates. A tour of one of the distilleries is planned, and that should be some fun. Topic 2. The Wireless Institute of Australia passes on our congratulations to the Australian Ladies Amateur Radio Association, more commonly known as ALARA, who will be concluding their ALARA Meet 2023 in Hobart, Tasmania this weekend. ALARA Meet happens every 3 years, and it's an opportunity for WILES within the ALARA organisation and other amateur radio operators to meet in person. Anyone wishing to seek further information on ALARA can look them up at www.alara.org.au. Topic 3. Peter, VK5JP, has requested to utilise the call sign VK5WIA for use during the weekly news broadcasts callbacks on OzRepeaterNet WiresX Room 24160. The board of the WIA have approved his request for the use of the call sign, and you should hear the start of this following this week's news broadcasts. The WIA encourages any other news broadcasters, should they wish to utilise WIA call signs, to put their request to the board of the WIA by emailing secretary@wia.org.au. This has been Chris Dimitrievich, VK3FY, on behalf of the board of the WIA for VK1WIA News.
This is Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine. Here's a chance in a lifetime. Sign up to use VK90AR, the special event call sign celebrating 90 years of Amateur Radio Magazine. That call sign won't be coming around again, not even if we are still publishing in another 90 years. A historic call sign for a historic occasion. Last month, Amateur Radio Magazine reached the milestone of being published continuously since October 1933. That's why we're marking the occasion by arranging keen operators to get on air and make some noise with VK90AR. With the solar cycle really crackling right now, here's an opportunity to add to the noise on the bands. The call sign is for use by any member of the WIA as well as any affiliated club. Signing up to use VK90AR is a simple process. Just apply on the WIA website online event calendar, where you can book a roster to suit yourself. If you already know where the online event calendar is, jump to it, or go to the website address in the text version of this broadcast. It's also in a news item featured on the WIA website homepage. VK90AR expires on 31st December 2023. So get online, book a roster and don't miss out. You might like to use VK90AR on AM on 7125 kHz as a nod to our heritage. How about it then? I'm Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH for VK1WIA News.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's national news service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello, leading this week's international news from Region 1, HF Beacon Charlie Sierra 3 Bravo Madeira, destroyed in wildfire. The radio beacon Charlie Sierra 3 Bravo on the Portuguese island of Madeira was destroyed by fire on October 12. Destroyed was radio ICOM 7200. It had only been installed in September 2023. CS3B was part of NCDXF's International Beacon Project, a series of HF beacons operating on 14100, 18110, 21150, 24930 and 28200 kHz. The site of Charlie Sierra 3 Bravo is off the northwest coast of Africa and was an ideal location to test radio propagation on the HF bands between Europe and North America. The fire damage to the site is quite extensive, as the building that housed the beacon was also destroyed, as was the antenna. Given the extensive damage, this HF beacon is likely to be out of service for some time. 26th IARU Region 1 General Conference. The 26th IARU Region 1 General Conference opened last Tuesday, 31st of October in Serbia. The opening plenary was held Wednesday, the 1st of November, with the closing plenary yesterday, Saturday, the 4th of November. There were 89 delegates from 43 member societies, attending together with the 33 officers from the IS, Regions 1, 2 and 3. Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, the HF, EMC, Youth and VHF, UHF committees met. Thursday afternoon and Friday, the Administration, Financial, Emergency Communication and Spectrum and Regulation committees met. There will also be various sessions on the shaping of the future of amateur radio. Russian amateurs holding the country's highest class of radio licence are now being permitted to use the 6-metre band with up to 1 kilowatt, this under a verbal agreement with the Russian regulator. Hams with Russian call signs have been using the band since 2014 from Crimea, when that territory was annexed. This was a privilege carried over from the time when 6-metre operation was permitted in Crimea when it was part of Ukraine. Russian amateurs have long contended that if authorities recognise 6-metre operation from Crimea, the privilege should be extended to all Russian hams. To news from Region 2, FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel says the FCC plans to incentivise innovation and experimentation in the amateur radio bands by getting rid of outdated restrictions and providing licensees with the flexibility to use modern digital emissions. The Commission, at its November meeting, is expected to take action on a report and order that would eliminate the band rate limitation and establish a bandwidth limitation in the amateur radio bands below 29.7 MHz. The order being circulated for tentative consideration by the Commission would remove the baud rate limitation, the rate at which the carrier waveform amplitude or frequency and or phase is varied to transmit information. For data emissions in the amateur radio bands, the FCC says. The current baud rate limits were adopted in 1980. In other news, the FCC deadline for US hams to file comments on their 60-metre band proposal has been extended to November 28. The comment period was originally to close October 30, 2023. The 18th annual ARRL online auction, sponsored by RT Systems Inc., raised $31,000 in support of amateur radio. The auction took place during October 13 to 19, 2023. In addition to hundreds of viewers, the auction saw 244 individual bidders vying for product review equipment, vintage books, mystery junk boxes from the ARRL lab, and more. The National Association of Broadcasters has announced the preliminary attendance numbers for NAB Show New York, which was held October 24 to 26 at the Javits Centre. This year, NAB said the annual show drew 12,231 people to the Big Apple, a 28% increase from 9,500 attendees in 2022. Nearly 270 exhibitors can be found across the show floor, including 60 first-time exhibitors. NAB said there were approximately 225 sessions featuring approximately 300 speakers. In news from Region 3, 72 passengers, predominantly from South 24 Parganas district in West Bengal, who met with an accident in Tamil Nadu during their tour of South India, was safely rescued from the accident site through prompt intervention from local amateur radio operators along with the local administration. A local ham radio operator who was travelling by motorcycle first came across the injured tourists and informed the Indian Institute of Hams, IIH. Manjura Nathar and Sarkur Sachapal of IIH contacted the local administration and the entire team reached the spot. The passengers were rescued and necessary arrangements were made for medical services. The IIH has a special event station, Alpha Tango 30, India Hotel, QRV until December 31 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Indian Institute of Hams. India's space agency, the Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, has taken a significant step forward in its ambitious Gaganyaan project by successfully conducting the first in a series of test flights. The project aims to send astronauts into space by 2025, making India the fourth country after the Soviet Union, United States and China to achieve this milestone. The primary objective of this test flight, known as Flight Test Vehicle Abort Mission 1, was to ascertain the spacecraft's ability to safely rescue the crew in the event of a rocket malfunction. The chairman of ISRO announced the success of the mission, eliciting cheers and applause from his colleagues. For VK1WIA National News in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, operational news with VK4FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. Now, contest-wise. Last weekend was the CQ Worldwide SSB contest, and one entry in particular was a little different and a fantastic idea. Ben, VK4YT, Media Officer for the Tablelands Radio and Electronics Club, joins us to kick off this week's operational news.
On Saturday, the 28th of October, members from Trek were at Kirai State School on the Atherton Tablelands participating in the CQ Worldwide SSB contest with a very enthusiastic group of grade 5 and 6 students. Noiden students and a teacher who hold their foundation licences were on the air, and we had some other teachers and parents on the radio putting out calls under supervision from the kids as well. We'll be using an IC7300 and Alacraft amp into a tri-band Yagi on 10, 15 and 20 metre bands on the club's tower trailer. We'll be using the call sign VK4KSS and did a combination of hunt and pounce and calling CQ throughout the day. Last year, the group came third in Australia and 8th in Oceania in the category they entered with around 11,000 points. This year, after scores were tallied, we had over 82,000 points with 278 QSOs from 12 hours of operating, so the kids really outdid themselves. Thank you to all the volunteers who gave their time to help set up and operate the contest station, and to those who returned our calls. This is Ben, VK4YT from Tablelands Radio and Electronics Club, 7-3 and good DX.
Thanks, Ben. And as our news editor, when serving in the military, would have said, well done those men. Okay, and women. Hi, hi. Now, next to November contests. UHF Spring Field Day, 25-26 November. 0100 hours UTC Saturday to 0059 hours UTC Sunday. But to make it a little fair in VK6, they add 3 hours on the start and end times. 75th CQ Worldwide DX Contest CW Leg is also in November 25-26 on the 160 to 10 metre contest bands. Exchanges Signal Report and UCQ Zone. DX Window. The special call sign VI7ALARA is active on the HF bands until the 8th of November. That's Wednesday. Commemorating the Australian Ladies Amateur Radio Association's meeting being held in Hobart. The call sign is being operated by a number of YLs in Tasmania and throughout Australia. Call sign VI4ACRO activation this entire month. November brings awareness of the debilitating medical condition acromegaly. VI10 VKFF running all year celebrates the 10-year anniversary of the VKFF group. VK90AR for Amateur Radio Magazine. October 2023, this year, sees your WIA celebrating 90 years of continuous publishing of Amateur Radio Magazine, the official journal of the Wireless Institute of Australia. The WIA will be running VK90AR activity until December 31. Special event station VI100MB all year celebrates the centenary of the Manly Warringah Radio Society. For VK1WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ Inningham.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, special interest group news with Bruce, VK3FFF.
And a very good day to you. Worldwide special interest groups astronomy. Starlink satellites are emitting RFI that is causing issues for radio astronomers, even in so-called radio quiet zones such as the outback of Western Australia. That is the finding of a research team that published their findings recently in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics Letters. Stephen Tingay of Curtin University writes on the Cosmos magazine website that, using radio telescopes, the researchers detected signals at a number of licensed radio frequencies, but their greatest concern was over intended and unintended emissions from elsewhere. They traced those to Starlink satellites. The scientists' tests were conducted at the site where an SKA low facility is to be built in Western Australia. The research paper's purpose was to demonstrate that Starlink emissions were easily detected by low-frequency radio antennae that the scientists were using to represent the SKA low station, such as the one intended for that site. Known as version 2 of the Engineering Development Array, the antennas were utilised at 137.5 MHz and 159.4 MHz. The scientists wrote in their conclusion that, quote, "Our results indicate that both intended and unintended radiation from Starlink satellites will be detrimental to key SKA science goals without mitigation," end quote. The team recommends dialogue with SpaceX to work on a means of mitigation involving the use of version 2 of the Engineering Development Array at the site. Worldwide special interest groups, Final Frontier. Amateur radio on the International Space Station, ARIS, is planning their 40th anniversary celebration conference for February 22nd to 24th, 2024. The Positive Impact of Amateur Radio on Human Spaceflight 40th Anniversary Conference will be held at the Centre for Space Education Astronauts Memorial Foundation, adjacent to the NASA Kennedy Space Center Visitors Center in Florida. Organisers hope to gather volunteer teams, astronauts, space agency officials, educators and space and amateur radio enthusiasts to attend the event. Worldwide special interest groups, Maritime, to commemorate the November 10, 1975 sinking of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, the Livonia Amateur Radio Club, LARC, will operate special event station W8F at the museum on Saturday, November 11 from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time. Their aim, contacting other amateur radio operators around the globe, reminding them of the Fitz's story. A special confirmation certificate will be available to those hams who make contact with W8F. Worldwide special interest groups, radio amateur old-timers, and with this report, a not too well, Clive. Trust you and yours get over the dreaded COVID soon.
Hello everyone, this is Clive, VK6CSW, reminding you that the November RAOTC Bulletin goes to air tomorrow. This month we offer another historical broadcast by Alan Doble, VK3AMD, now SK, from February 2002. The latest club news and information will be broadcast next month. Everyone, RAOTC members and non-members alike, is most welcome to listen to the programme and to join in the callbacks afterwards. Full details of all transmission times and modes can be found on the RAOTC website at www.raotc.org.au or just Google RAOTC broadcasts. If none of the transmission times suit you, you can download the audio file at any time from today from the club website. Members and friends of the RAOTC in Perth are reminded that the next lunchtime meeting at the Woodbridge Hotel, East Guildford, will be on Tuesday, November the 14th. All are welcome. Full details are published on the club website. Once again, tune in tomorrow for the November RAOTC Bulletin. Enjoy the programme and please join in the callbacks afterwards. 7-3 from Clive, VK6CSW.
Thanks, Clive. Now from the older to we younger, it's Yoda Radio Amateur Young Timers. How to engage with we youth amateur radio STEM education. ARRL Education and Learning Manager and IARU Region 2 Youth Coordinator Steve Goodgame, K5 ATA, gave the keynote address at the 2023 ARRL Pacific Division Ham Radio Convention, also known as Pacificon. Mr. Goodgame was a public school teacher for 21 years. He carries his experience of bringing ham radio into the classroom into his role at ARRL. It is safe to say I've learned a thing or two about reaching you youth along the way, he quipped. His presentation to a packed audience was a highlight of the convention. K5 ATA's passion and vision for promoting youth involvement in the hobby shined in his speech as he discussed STEM education and the importance of inspiring youth and teachers to engage in amateur radio and wireless technology. Now, we too can watch a vision of the future of amateur radio on the ARRL HQ YouTube channel. And with that, I'm Alec, VK2APC in Sydney. It's back over to you, Bruce, VK3FFF.
Thanks, Alec. Now, Worldwide Special Interest Groups Rescue Radio.
Hi, I'm Mark, VK4DMH. Last Monday around 3:40pm, a call for assistance was heard on the 146.7 MHz Gold Coast repeater. There were 3 bushwalkers on the border track near Beddenborough, just over 30 kilometres southwest of Surfers Paradise, and 1 male within the group required urgent medical assistance following a short fall. There was no mobile phone coverage along the track, which is in thick rainforest. Fortunately, 2 of the group were amateur radio operators, Stuart, VK4MSL, and his father, David, VK4MDL, and they both had their handheld radios on them. Stuart, VK4MSL, had put the call out for assistance, and Jeff, VK2DLA, replied. It was later established that 4 other local amateur radio operators were also monitoring the situation right from the initial call. A Queensland ambulance was dispatched, lights and sirens, on the 36-kilometre road trip up the mountains and back up from Queensland Police. The Polair helicopter was also sent to visually confirm the exact location of the patient. The police requested for Polair to use the 146.7 repeater so they could talk direct to Stuart. Jeff was happy to provide the frequencies and tone access, as well as the option to use a simplex frequency 146.5 MHz. But programming amateur frequencies into the helicopter proved to be a bit difficult. APRS also played an important role as Jeff, VK2DLA, was able to receive regular updates on Stuart's lat and long. With Jeff relaying the communications, it was important that just one operator was involved with the exchange of messages. By 5:30pm, the patient was in the ambulance on his way to hospital. Reports are that he's doing well.
Worldwide Special Interest Groups Video, ATV, SSTV and other forms such as YouTube. 41st AMSAT Space Symposium and Annual General Meeting. YouTube videos available. Yes, more than 12 hours of video recordings are on their YouTube page. You can easily find these videos by clicking on the Live tab under the Radio Amateur Satellite Corporation channel. Furthermore, YouTube offers closed captioning for these recordings. Just click on the CC icon in the video player's lower right corner. If you'd prefer, you can also enable subtitles in multiple languages. To help you quickly access video from the AMSAT Annual General Meeting, along with the 16 presentations given at this year's AMSAT Symposium, we have included, thanks to ANS and AMSAT, direct links for you in the text edition of this WIA National News. I'm Bruce, VK3FFF from sunny Bendigo.
2023 social scene and still on the horizon. VK3 Rosebud Radio Fest at Eastbourne Primary School, Sunday, November 12. VK4 the Gold Coast Hamfest, 8:30am, also next Sunday, November 12. VK7 the NTARC Massive Radio Auction, November 25. And in VK5, Amateur Radio Experimenters Group Radio and Electronic Sale, November 26. Now, thanks for listening and thanks to all our rebroadcasters. I'm Graham, VK4BB. walk softly.
This has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.
Hello there, this is VK3OTN, the official station of the Radio Amateur Oldtimers Club of Australia, with a monthly news broadcast for members and friends of the club for November 2023. This month, instead of the usual broadcast, we will offer an historical broadcast from years past. The usual news and information will be broadcast next month. I'm Andrew, the VK3 Charlie Alpha Hotel. I have broadcast files going back as far as 2001. Many of the older files aren't the greatest as far as technical quality goes, archived in either real audio or Windows Media audio format. These produced a smaller file size back in the days when the leading edge technology was dial-up internet. Remember that? This month we have an original broadcast from February 2002. Details on when to hear these news and information broadcasts are available at the club website www.raotc.org.au. The VK3OTN is available on a wide range of radio platforms, HF, VHF and UHF, 2-metre repeaters, amateur television, DMR, that is digital mobile radio, and D-Star. These news broadcasts are available for download for up to 6 months, just in case you miss the original news broadcast from the RAOTC website. If you'd like to contact the club, then why not send us an email, raotc@raotc.org.au. I hope you enjoy this month's broadcast.
Alan Doble on VK3AMD and associated relay stations is VK3OTN, the official call sign for Radio Amateur Oldtimers Club. Well, it's good to be back on the air with this broadcast, the first for the year 2002, as hard as that is to believe. We hope all of you listening today have a happy Christmas season, that you and your families will have a healthy and happy year, and a successful time in our great hobby of amateur radio. Having said all that, you'll naturally want to know what's happening about incorporation, which the majority of members voted for. At a long committee meeting on Tuesday, January the 15th, Arthur Evans, VK3BQ, our secretary, presented us with all the documentation involved, and there is a lot of that, starting with the appropriate Act of Parliament, plus the rules applying under the Act, and the long and involved preferred rules for an incorporated body. We believe that we could and should make some changes in details of parts of these sample rules to better suit our own circumstances. Bill Roper, VK3BR, has composed a sample of the rules, including the suggested detailed changes, and your committee will meet again very soon for further discussion. This is a process that cannot be hurried, because of its far-reaching consequences, but rest assured we will keep on working at it. This is VK3OTN. Now, about our transmissions in VK6 last December, it was an historic first for the club. Early last year, our VK6 friends were able to arrange for the 20-metre transmission from Melbourne to be fed to the WIA VK6 repeater network by Clive VK6SW for the benefit of those who could not get a good signal direct from Melbourne for one reason or another. Later in the year, Clem VK6CSW, VK6OTN suggested that we explore the possibility of feeding the broadcast down the line on the internet so that a high-quality tape sent this way shortly after the original broadcast in Melbourne could then be put to air through the repeater network by Tony VK6CS at the same time as the 20-metre transmission was being beamed direct. After many hours on the internet between Clem VK6CSW and Bill VK3BR, a very high-grade transmission was sent via the internet using the real audio format. Feedback after the broadcast last time was very positive and very enthusiastic, with 14 repeater listeners reporting back to Tony VK6TS. While all this was going on, Clive VK6CSW was standing by to do the transfer from 20 metres to the repeater net if the new internet venture didn't work out. Well, it did work out, in spades, and we all owe our thanks and gratitude to the operators I have named. This month the same procedure will be followed, and Clive plans to put the program, Clem I should say, VK6CSW plans to put the program on 40 metres. 7075 is the planned frequency. That's great. I'm sorry to report the passing from us of Leith Cotton VK5LG, who was member number 186, and Leith was 96 years old. Also Ken Horan VK5IT, who was member number 592. I think I've got it right. Reading my own writing, not 597. Sorry about that. Clive Castle, who was member number 145, and Roth Jones, who held the call sign VK3BG for many years, and was member number 17. Let's pause for just a few moments in memory of these long-time friends. This is VK3OTN. About our magazine. Our editor, Stuart Day, VK3ESD, is working on the forthcoming March issue of our popular magazine, OTN. Both Stuart as magazine editor and myself as your broadcast presenter are finding it harder than it used to be to find suitable material. We do need more input from our members because it is reminiscences and or experiences of our members that both our broadcast and our magazine are meant to be about. Don't be shy. Your experiences are interesting to your fellow members, and don't worry about bad handwriting. It cannot be worse than my own, which I have just been reading to you. Enough said. Here in Melbourne, we'll be having lunch at our usual venue, the Bentley Club, on Tuesday, what am I talking about? Tuesday, March the 12th at 1 p.m. Gee, I told you I couldn't read my own writing. The luncheon will be follow our annual general meeting where you can elect a new committee if you don't like the way we do things. Sounds like you ought to get a new broadcast officer too. Nomination for committee positions should be in the hands of our Secretary Arthur Evans, VK3VQ, not later than February the 28th. At the luncheon, our guest speaker will be Mr. Jim Karinakis, the Senior Technical Officer of the Australian Communications Authority's laboratory here in Melbourne. He'll be speaking to us about the new EMR standard, which will affect us all and come into force in a few months' time. There'll be plenty of time for questions. Non-members are invited, but bookings must be made by Friday the 1st of March with Arthur Evans, VK3VQ, who is the QTHR in any call book. Good opportunity to learn something that's going to affect us all. And if you are a member of the RAAF Wireless Reserve, Col Harvey, VK1AU, would like your help. In his research about the history of the reserve, he's been unable to find two documents. They are the Wireless Reserve Training Manual and Standing Orders for the Wireless Reserve. If you have a copy of either or both of these documents, please get in touch with Col Harvey, VK1AU, who is QTHR in any call book. Sid O'Neill, VK6MK, has provided this next item about a post-war experience that changed his habits as far as drinking tea was concerned. He says, it all started on the Buin Island just off the coast of Borneo in 1951. I was a member of the small RAF, oblique RAAF 28 pod detachment stationed there to provide signals facilities for transiting aircraft, both service and civilian. The tea in the mess used to be served up in big aluminium kettles with milk at sweet shifts, brands similar to our carnation but much yellower in colour, already added. One particular evening there was considerable grumbling about the taste of the tea, even by the RAF personnel. We RAAF found it very off and declined to partake and dismissed it as one of those things. The next morning at breakfast, however, the tea was definitely undrinkable by all. So with a bit of urging, I trotted down to the RAF CO's bungalow, mug of tea in hand, and knocked on his door. When he bade me enter and state my business, I told him the tea was off and would he care to sample it. He was sitting up in bed with his china teapot on the bedside table and declined my offer, but said there was nothing wrong with his tea, to which I replied, no, there wouldn't be. He did, however, agree to investigate. The subsequent investigation revealed that our mess boys, who were responsible for lighting the fire under the big copper kettle, of those used for boiling the washing in days gone by, fitted with a tap, they had decided in the interest of efficiency to eliminate the mixing of the tea and milk on the aluminium kettle. Instead, they chose to streamline the operation by adding the tea and milk to the boiling copper, then just decant the tea as required into the kettles. Just the awful tea that night. However, not content with their efficiency thus far, they left the remainder of the tea in the copper overnight, relit the fire under it the next morning, reboiled the lot, and then again decanted it into the kettles for breakfast. Imagine for a moment the smell and taste of the mixture after standing overnight in the tropics. It gave a whole new meaning to the term stewed tea. And my reward for bringing to light these cost labour-saving devices, I was appointed to the missing committee for the remainder of my tour, and I have never taken milk in my tea since that time, and we don't blame you. That was VK6MK. This is VK30TN for the Radio Aboriginal Timers Club. John Harris, VK5ASL, has provided the next item. It's about the coastal radio station VIY, which operated from Mount Gambier from 1913 to 1920. On the 12th of December 2001, members of the South East Radio Group assembled at the site of the first wireless station in Mount Gambier to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Marconi's first transatlantic message and unveil a plaque which described the coastal station VIY. What now follows is an extract from the book A History of Radio in South Australia, 1897 to 1977. The author is Mr. John F. Ross, who has very kindly given his permission to use the story in this broadcast today and in our magazine OTN. Apart from this special permission, the story is copyright. And this is the story, and this is VK3OTN. In 1912, the federal government purchased land in Mount Gambier to erect a second coastal radio station in South Australia. The land was purchased by Mr. A.J. Kilsby at the cost of £140 and was situated off what is now known as Wireless Road, about 2 kilometres north of the city. The buildings comprised double stone structures with 2 main rooms, one for the radio equipment office and the other the power plant. It was erected by the Works and Railways Department and located on the summit of the hill just east of the mast. The radio facilities provided at the station were of the Balsillie design and were installed by government staff. The total cost to establish the station was £2,438 and was commissioned for public business on the 1st of March 1913 without any formal opening ceremony. The installation was superintended by Mr. F.J. Burgoyne, who had earlier completed the Adelaide station. A few days before the completion of the work, Mr. Burgoyne and his assistant, Mr. Harry Coffey, were involved in an accident when fuel caught alight while they were making an adjustment to the engine set. The first officer in charge after commissioning the station was Mr. Coffey, who was assisted by Mr. George Bailey and Mr. A.S. Hart. Mr. Hart later became officer in charge and was there when the station closed down. The transmitting and receiving facilities were similar to those installed in Adelaide, but used a different antenna system and generated power on the station. The power plant comprised a 110-volt direct current 100-amp generator directly coupled to a single-cylinder internal combustion engine designed to consume either petrol or kerosene. It was rated at 15 kilowatts, that was about 20 horsepower, and was made by the Shaw Company. It had a flywheel about 1 metre in diameter. A small engine was provided to assist in the starting operations. The main engine was bolted to the same bed plate as the generator and joined by a leather coupling. It charged a bank of 45 accumulators which provided the power for the operation of the radio equipment. Direct operation of the equipment from the generator was practicable but not very satisfactory, as the variations in loading under transmission conditions affected the speed of the engine, which in turn caused a change in the supply voltage. To deaden the noise made by the engine, the green baize covered doors, a double thickness of green baize covered the doors to the engine. The antenna system was an insulated umbrella type using stranded phosphor bronze wires supported by a massive wooden mast some 51 metres high with a crosspiece on top about 7 metres long. The mast was fabricated from laminated Oregon pine planks thoroughly creosoted for preservation purposes, with the planks being held together with steel coach bolts. Altogether, more than 2,000 bolts were used in the fabrication. The mast was 52 centimetres square at the bottom and was fitted with into a solid concrete block. The base was poured as a block 2.5 metres square and 2.2 metres deep, resting on a limestone foundation. On top of the base, two walls 1.6 metres high were cast as an integral part of the base. After erection of the mast, the space between the walls surrounding the mast was filled with concrete. The mast was the tallest in the state and for many years was a well-known landmark in the Mount Gambier district. The weight of the mast was estimated to be about 18 tonnes and the cost of the wood material alone was £300. Because of its weight, the task of erecting the mast was a difficult one. It was assembled on the ground in cradles of red gun sleepers, and 3 jury poles of varying lengths were used to raise it to the vertical position. The longest of these poles was about 24 metres high, and they were attached to the mast at right angles and held in position by steel ropes. A hand-operated winch located about 50 metres from the base on the eastern side was used for the erection. A strong steel rope was led from the top of the tallest jury pole to the winch, and 8 men were required to turn the handle. And there's some more about the erection of the mast. Other items of equipment at the station included a rotary converter for providing power for a high-voltage spark gap transformer, a battery of Leyden jars, an air compressor with a quenched arc, and crystal receiving equipment. One of the crystal sets was a loose coupler type. On July the 6th, 1914, the station was used to convey medical advice to the captain of the ship Armidale for treatment of a seaman who had fallen down the hold and suffered severe injuries. A report in the Border Watch newspaper indicated that Dr. W. Sangster received a communication through the station from the captain of the ship asking for advice as to the treatment to be given until such time that the ship could reach Melbourne. The doctor's advice was transmitted to the captain, whose ship at the time was about 320 kilometres off Mount Gambier. Shortly after the war, the staff was increased and continuous observations put into effect. In October 1914, the station was placed under guard by the local militia. The guard of 21 men and 2 officers was from C Company 74th Infantry, under the command of Captain Haig, who was assisted by Lieutenant Cape and Sergeant Callender. One of the soldiers was Mr. S.O. Whitehead, who was still active in Mount Gambier in 1974. Another was a Mr. L.J. Lester, who was living in Adelaide. After the cessation of hostilities, operations began on a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. basis with an officer in charge and 2 operators. The staff was gradually reduced up to a one-man station providing a service from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday, and nothing on Sunday. In 1919, the coast charged rates for footprints per word for radio telegrams to or from ships licensed in Australia or New Zealand, and sections of word to or from other ships. Landline charges were a penny a word. It was originally intended to be a relay station between Melbourne Station BIM and Adelaide Station BIA during daylight hours. In practice, it did not provide any great advantage, as ships off the coast in the immediate vicinity could invariably communicate with all three stations, BIM, BIY and BIA. Excuse me. Later improvements in technology resulting in more efficient transmitting and receiving equipment at these stations also contributed to the eventual close down of BIY. It was closed down in 1920 when the coast station network throughout Australia was reorganised in an attempt to economise operating costs. It lay idle for about 3 years before it was dismantled. Mr. Peverick of Narracourt bought the whole installation except the mast. The engine was reinstalled at the Narracourt Electric Supply Company's powerhouse and used to drive one of their generators. The mast was sold to 2 local men and ended up in the local rabbit factory for case making. It was dismantled early in May 1923. The solid concrete base had to be blasted before the mast could be let down. The dismantling was carried out by Walker Brothers, who used a steam-driven traction engine to steady the pole during the lowering operations. When the mast fell, it landed across a fence post, and the great mass pushed the post into the ground out of sight. A section of the mast has been preserved in the Adelaide Telecommunications Museum. The original building is now occupied as a private residence. This story was reproduced from the History of Radio in South Australia, at least 1897 to 1977, by Mr. John Ross, and who owns the copyright, and we acknowledge with thanks Mr. Ross's permission to use the story today. I hope you found it of interest, and thanks to John, VK5ASL, for finding it for us. This is VK30TN for the Radio Amateur Old-Timers Club. Next items are wartime reminiscence for a signals unit with acknowledgement to Sir Tacito, the Journal of the Victorian branch of the Royal Australian Signals Association, November 2001. The writer is Don Jackson, who served with No. 6 Heavy Wireless 3rd Corps Signals, and he writes, the title of his story is The Battle of Aspro. It was in 1942, if my memory serves me, that it was decided to locate land headquarters to direct operations during the anticipated invasion of West Australia. The powers that be chose a secluded island north of Perth, which was eventually codenamed Aspro. How apt this name turned out to be. Of course, wireless communications had to be assured, and with this in mind, a detachment was sent from 6 Heavy Wireless to ascertain whether communications could be maintained. Corporal Snowy was OC, and there were 3 other WT operators. We were issued with the famous and some said infamous 109 set. The tent was pitched, aerial connected, and test messages sent. We worked a roster of 4-hour shifts. Communications were satisfactory when Snowy came on duty at 2400 hours. We had been on ops with Snowy several times and become quite used to seeing him with a blanket over his head and the phones over that. There we were, Snowy on the set, dimly lit by a low wattage bulb, and the rest of us bedded down for the night. About 0400 hours I awoke and felt rain on my face, or was I dreaming? I hurriedly aroused the others. The tent was an untidy heap 100 yards down the hill, rain pouring down, and Snowy sitting up at 109, blanket over his head, phones on, fast asleep. How's comms, Snowy? Or a bit of a dill at the other end, but otherwise not bad. And later off, Snowy became notorious for dropping off. Subsequently, this area became the site for land headquarters and signals headquarters. The next time we saw it, we were most impressed. The engineers had done a wonderful job. Literally hollowed out the entire hill and divided the interior into rooms and passages, and over the lot was a huge camouflage net. It was truly amazing. We were allocated an area beneath the net, and it was proposed our van was to be placed just so, but it had to be dug in. Armed with spades, shovels, pickaxes, crowbar, etc., we attacked the designated area, only to find that just under the soil was solid rock. We worked day after day to make headway through that rock, but hardly made an impression. We mere Sikhs thought it was ridiculous, but our dear sergeant in charge said we had to obey orders from above. Every night we retired exhausted and frustrated. We were self-catered, i.e. bully beef and powdered egg, and some potatoes which we found in a nearby paddock. We took turns to be cook. My turn came round all too quickly. I put the bully beef into a Dixie, poured off the fat and grease, and covered the meat with mashed potatoes and mushrooms. That was another paddock. I was unanimously voted cook for the duration, and certainly beat the bully beef and powdered egg. On retiring for the night, we took turns to read out loud our one and only book, 2 pages a night to stretch it out. One by one we would drop off, listening to the adventures of Tom and Leonora. Believe me, some of the things that pair got up to would make your hair curl. Naturally, much ad-libbing went on. When it was at last realised we had no hope of burying our man, the engineers then did the job, with jelly knife. Now that was from Sir Tacito, Volume 8, Number 9, magazine of the Royal Australian Signals Association, Victoria. Thank you for that. This is VK3OTN for the Radio Amateur Old-Timers Club. Back in March 2000, Ross Croucher, VK3RC, told the story of a Lockheed Hudson bomber which became bombed in Arnhem Land. Ross now knows the subsequent history of this plane and shares it with us as follows. Since this article, among other things, was about the recovery of a Lockheed Hudson aircraft which had become bogged in a clay pan in Arnhem Land in 1943, was published in RAOTC magazine in March 2000, I've received letters from folk who were involved in the matters that I read about and who were interested in particular aspects of the article. One such correspondent was Mr. David Vincent, who's interested in Lockheed Hudson aircraft. He's already written and published 1 volume of the Hudson story, and another one was nearly ready for publication. He's obtained a great deal of information from our magazine, and my story too was useful in filling on a few gaps. He was able to tell me the serial number of the Hudson which was bombed in the clay pan was A16-219. Further to that, he enclosed a copy of its complete service history from the date it was received from USA on the 17th of the 4th, 42, into number 1 aircraft, AD, whatever that term is, I'm not quite sure. It was allotted to number 13 Squadron and number 2 Squadron on the 22nd of the 9th, 43, and the record showed the entry as bogged vicinity Millingimby. This was what intrigued Mr. Vincent, and when my story appeared, it filled in the gap for him. On the 3rd of the 644, it was fitted out for air ambulance. On the 19th of the 10th, 45, was allocated to a photo survey unit and seems to finish the war in that capacity. It was then stored. On the 1st of the 7th, 47, it was transferred for disposal. It was eventually sold for £1,000, but this sale was cancelled. On the 13th of the 1st, 48, it was sold for £400. It became VHBLA and was used in New Guinea, but returned to Australia in 1950 and once again fitted out for survey work as VHAGG and continued in this service until 1958. Then, as Mr. Vincent puts it, whilst back in New Guinea for a short time, it stalled into the sea while on a final approach to Lae, with the starboard aircrew feathered and all aboard being killed. After 16 years, what a tragedy. Thanks, Ross. David Vincent did provide a photograph of the bogged plane, and we'll publish that in the for this final page of this history in our OTN magazine. This is VK3AMD and associated relay stations as VK3OTN. A brief note, if you're interested in satellites and you're around Melbourne, Moorabbin Club they're meeting on the 22nd of the month will have as guest speaker Mr. Robin Hayton, VE3FRM, the president of ANSAT North America. The people interested would be welcome at the club, but they'd like to know you're coming because they expect a big crowd. Okay, and there's some news about one of our members. Ken Mack at BK3TL is the mastermind responsible for the federal WIA's astonishing collection of more than 200,000 QSL cards. Their cataloguing and storage. Cards keep coming to him to sort and file, and though he now has some helpers, he still needs some more assistance, in particular with the Australian part of the collection. He'd very much appreciate a visit or a call from a Melbourne-based amateur who would consider helping. Ken is QTHR in any call book, and his phone number is 972855350. Repeat, 972855350. Considering the great job he does with the QSL collection, it's a wonderful thing that at the age of 80 he's still as active and successful in his other hobby of marathon running and associated sports, in which he's competed in other countries as well as Australia. The next stop being Tahiti in a couple of weeks' time. He might even be there right now. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Oceania Veterans Athletics Championship was held in Geelong with 5,000 competitors taking part. Ken came home with the other event having won gold in both the 5,000 metre walk and the 5,000 metre run, plus gold in the 21-kilometre half marathon and also the 2,000 metre steeplechase. Repeat, 2,000 metre steeplechase. Not content with this, having set new records in the steeplechase and the half marathon, the steeplechase and the 5,000 metres, he went on to take silver in the 100 metre and 800 metre sprints. All that in the space of a few days in January. Beat that and play fair if you can. Congratulations, Ken. And speaking of satellites, which I did a little while ago, it reminds me of the story about the arrival of the first crew of astronauts to land on Mars. They were surprised and pleased to find that there were people there not unlike themselves, who had a language not unlike their own, so they could communicate very well. One of the astronauts, we don't know his name, became very friendly with a very attractive Martian woman, and they spent many times together, discovering a very wide range of subjects. Eventually, the subject of reproduction came up. The woman said that on Mars they spat in a large jar to which were added a series of chemicals and liquids which were vigorously stirred and vibrated for a short time, after which the baby was formed. The astronaut expressed interest and amazement. He then described the Earthling's approach to the same problem and offered to demonstrate if she was interested. The offer was accepted, so he proceeded to demonstrate. In fact, he repeated the demonstration quite a few times. The woman said she found it very interesting and was the most enjoyable thing she'd ever done, but wanted to know where was the baby. The astronaut told her that would appear in 9 months. Oh, she said, 9 months, eh? Why did you stop? And on a happy note, I'll leave it for our next broadcast in March the 4th. This is Alan Doble, VK3AMD, and associated relay stations is VK3OTN. The official call sign the Radio Amateur Old-Timers Club in Australia. We now conclude our transmission for this month, and we hope you've found it interesting.
You have been listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old-Timers Club, Australia. This concludes this month's News and Information Bulletin. The next RAOTC News and Information broadcast will take place on the first Monday of next month, on the same frequencies, and at the same times as today, with the exception of January. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you will join in the callbacks, where callbacks are taken. 73 everyone.